Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, actually, that's all right. We don't need it too loud today. Welcome to day 4, which is Head Mess Day. And welcome to those who have been before. Let's have a look at a review yesterday and the last few days before we move forward. There's no need to turn to page 8, but I'm just going to go through, just to recap, some questions which are kind of key. Why are you doing this? Which is your why. As you can see, we've quite scientifically strung together the few days so that by understanding what your why is, you can then go back to it every time you want to and press your own buttons to get motivated again. Okay? So the why is something that you always go back to when you're sitting there just wondering whether you should be watching Procrastination Street or not. Then we looked at how much do you need in order to be able to fulfill your why. Then we've been looking at how are you going to achieve this? Which one of the strategies are you going to use? When are you starting? What time are you allocating to this? That was the spreadsheets. And where are you going to be operating? So now everyone pretty much knows where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing, and how they're going to do it. So all we then needed to do is to start giving you the tools, how to deal with estate agents. And there's a lot more to it than what probably a lot of you actually realised. It's not just walking into an estate agent and asking if they've got any deals, is it? To be that number one buyer and get any deals is a whole lot more to it. And then there's negotiating with vendors. You can't just, when somebody phones you up with a property that's worth 140 grand, offer 100 grand over the phone and expect to get any deals. You can't just go to somebody's house and walk around and go, when it's on the market for 140, I'll give you 100 for it. Because it doesn't work. So there's that nibbling technique that you've got. And then all we need to do, and what we started doing, is layering in all the other tools that you're going to need to deal with things as you come across them. Like dealing with repossessions, like being able to structure, recycling your cash so you never run out of your cash pot. And I put this right at the very beginning, which is 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. And what we're doing is giving you the tools to go out and achieve whatever level of success you want. Whether your target's 3 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, or 100 grand. It's there waiting for you, and it's just using the perfect practice that will allow you to get there. Okay? It's just going to be, from now on, just a matter of how hard you're pushing yourself. How many hours you can dedicate it. The difference that makes the difference. Every time you put that little bit of effort in and you get one more deal, you add another £200 or £300 a month to your cash flow, which is pretty much going to be with you for life. So every 5 or 6 hours that you put in that you get one deal from will pay you back for life. And it then says, and this is by Mark Twain, so throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbour, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. So what I'm going to do today is start adding a lot more ideas, which is a little bit more creative, and things that you've probably never come across before. Some you may have, some you may not. So any questions that you've got from yesterday, anything else you need to add or ask, any missing bits of information that you need? Sophie, just hang.
Thanks, Glenn. We were getting a bit confused about the no money down kind of solution.
Farmer.
The farmer?
The farmer.
What's the farmer doing?
It's... You just be quiet. Just because I bought that land off you. That is a commercial transaction that happens within property quite a lot. What I did is used it to demonstrate that the actual end price is the actual price that the vendor gets. And however, the bit in the middle, the option, comes back to us. Okay, the option fee. So that's a commercial transaction that takes place hundreds of times a week right the way across the country. And it's to demonstrate that you can do that to residential property as well, in order that you can recycle your cash the same day you buy the property. Okay? It's all about, and the detail, I could probably go over it 20 times and still, you know, when you find a deal and you know there's a discount, you're not mentoring. Helen has been doing this for years. She used to be head of conveyancing for a solicitor's firm. In fact, she probably worked for City Law when you were doing your deal. She just guides you through the whole thing. So you don't need to worry about it, you just need to know that it's available, and you need to be able to explain it to somebody when you're negotiating with them. So it's just understanding that the concept's there, that you can do that. Okay? And when you come to go and negotiate with a vendor and you've agreed a price, I'll tell you what to do. And then it'll be right fresh in your mind. And then you just practice it again and again. It's like what Ian did with his vendor, getting him to buy back into. One of the things we've done, there's a deal that we're getting very close to doing, which is a hotel, semi-derelict up in the Lake District. And it's got planning to convert this into 6 apartments. And it's got a big piece of land out here, and it's got planning permission to build 10 properties. And it's on the market for 475. Okay. And we've had our offer accepted at 475. It's all very well buying something at 475 if you've got the 475 to buy it with, and you've got the couple hundred grand it's going to take to kickstart the cash flowing of the project. I can go and get 70% of that money from the bank. My calculator has disappeared. There it is. So I can get, it's just under, I can get 360 from the bank. So what we're doing is that means I've got to find 115 grand plus stamp to put into the deal, yeah? So I'm going to put the bank's 360 and my 115 into a limited company, okay? And the limited company will buy this project. The people that are selling it to us are only selling it to us because they can't afford to develop it. So we've asked them if they'd like to partner with us. And they're actually going to take the 75 grand. There's 4 of them that own it. They're going to walk off with the 75 grand. After I've bought this, I'm going to have 115 grand of my cash in there and 360 grand of the bank's cash. I'm going to get them to put and buy shares in the company. They actually buy shares in the company and put 400 grand back into it. So I can take my deposit back out. Now I'm into the deal, and how much money have I got in there? None. So that happens all on day one. Okay, all happens on day one. And I've got 400 grand in the kitty to build this out with. Plus I've got more finance from the bank because they'll be bankrolling the project. Okay. So all they've done is bought shares back in the company. So when it sells, they get their percentage. Now there's been a lot more to it than just that. We've obviously had to negotiate things like the checkbook, who's in control of it. You know, who's going to be looking after their 400 grand. So one of them are on a signatory on the checkbook, and nobody can do anything unless there's two signatures on there. So they're now comfortable about their money. And the person who, on the partnership programme who's going to run this project is a QS, he's a quantity surveyor. That's what his job is, doing that stuff. So he's actually going to run that project. Now, when that develops out, and it's a development that, how much money have I got in it? None. Absolutely zilch. I've been up there, I spent one day travelling up to Kendal where this project is, and a few hours in negotiation. A few hours explaining things to our solicitor and their solicitor so they all got it. A few hours dealing with their agent, okay? So I've probably got about 10 hours with travelling time, maybe 15 hours into the project. That project will make over 600 grand profit. And that's out there, that type of stuff, waiting. It's not bad for 10 hours work, is it? And these are out there. This is one that some of the partnership program's doing, and he came in, he said, well, I found this development project, I don't suppose you'd want to back it because it's going to take a lot of money. So I said, tell me about it, tell me about the people, tell me what they need, tell me what they want. And I said to him, why don't you go and ask them, if they can't afford to develop it out, we'll give them a percentage of the profit. Let them buy into the limited company, and we'll bankroll it with their money and a bit of bank money.
What share did they get for their 400 grand?
No, I think they're on a total of about 35–40% between them, which they're going to get. And then the other half get 50% each of the 600 between me and Graham, who found it. So my payout's 300 grand in this, just because I structured it. I haven't got the details, but it's, you know, there's 10 properties and a big this, but we're not going to do that until that's sold out and we've got the money in, and that'll bankroll that. So you can kind of phase it. But we don't want to do the properties in 2 or 3 phases, because it's much easier to do all 10 properties at the same time, because you get you know, quantity of scale discounts. Okay?
Would the 6 apartments be a HMO in the meantime as a cash flow to help fund that?
No, because you haven't seen it. There's probably rabbit droppings.
It's a hotel, sir.
Yeah, well, no, there's rabbit droppings in there, and there's like holes in the ceiling, and there's branches growing out of the living room type thing. I did give him an option on a place in Stoke-on-Trent with a tree coming out of the chimney. So he's familiar with trees coming out of buildings. I like Jim. He's Ian. Your eyes have lit up. What's going on in your head?
Interested to see that the 475 purchase price goes into the limited company, 400 comes back, but that leaves a balance of 75. I'm not quite clear on what's happening.
They've kept the 75.
They've kept.
I've bought it off them for 475, so they've got 475 grand in. Okay.
They've loaned
they've
back.
They haven't loaned it to us. They've bought shares in the company.
Got it.
Kind of like we looked at doing for your HMO.
Yeah.
And him buying shares and then you buying him back out on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
But we tweaked it.
Okay.
But it's perfectly legitimate for them to buy shares in the limited company and put money back in. You know, but it's turned it into a no money down, no cost to me. Yeah, once they've sent that 400 back into our bank account, they know I'm taking that 115 and the stamp duty out.
Very good.
Can I do that on a much smaller scale on just a regular property?
Of course you can.
To use the limited company?
Yeah, of course you can use a limited company, and then you get the sellers put money back in afterwards, and it's a perfectly legitimate way of doing it. This is quite a different lot of different ways of presenting it. One which Ian's done, which is an equity stake buyback. And when the person does that, they can actually get insured with a FCA company. So like an insurance company, the solicitors actually act on behalf of the FCA insurance company. You know, they have to be FCA compliant, and the solicitors actually act for them and sell the vendor's insurance policy when they're putting their $250,000 back into Ian's project, that then Ian's paying them back over 8.5 years.
And the insurance policy is there to design to pay them out
if you go bust.
if you go bust.
Only if you go
Or
bust.
if you die. Yeah.
No, didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but you can, and we do, and you'll see where we do use life insurance policies to cover our backside if something happens, and it's not that dear to get pure life cover for a single transaction, but the solicitors actually have to allocate that, and the person who sells the life cover has to be actually allocated to the project. Okay, so if anything does happen to them, it pays out against that specific project. But it's all like on the mentoring, all you do is, how do I structure this? This is what you're paying for. This is to use my head to structure deals that will make you tens of thousands of pounds. They haven't got no money. They can't remortgage it. You can't remortgage something unless you've got enough income. Yeah? Yeah.
So the genius part is you've introduced bank money from your, as it were, worthiness, and then you've created some magic money, which is moving time and money and air around to create profit. That's genius.
Of course, it's an SPV, special purpose vehicle. You set them up specifically. I don't know if anyone ever heard of, or I've read quite often that, this person, they've got a big trail of hundreds of limited companies they've left in their wake. They've obviously been going bust left, right and centre, and what a mess. No, we've been setting up SPVs to run projects and selling them off, or cashing them in and saying, thank you very much, we don't need that SPV anymore, bye.
On the deal there, potentially going back to a question from yesterday, there is capital gains tax to the individuals for that 475 transaction, but they would then qualify potentially for rollover relief depending on how it's structured.
Exactly.
So they avoid
Yes.
paying capital gains tax.
Yes, it's been...
I'm sure you've factored it in. I'm just saying that to reinforce.
I
the
know,
point,
the
doesn't
more
it?
you know, the more you realise how clever that is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And how long did it take you to build up the trust with those people?
Graham, who's done the deal, turns out that his dad used to do bowls with one of the four of them. And he actually knew of Graham, and Graham is 100% integrity.
Right.
If you won the lottery, you could give him the ticket before you claim it, go off on holiday and come back and he'd give it you back.
Right.
Okay. And they know that.
Yeah.
And we're more than happy for them to be on the checkbook.
Yeah.
You know the FSA? They're not about anymore, are they? It's financial...
Conduct authority.
Yeah. So, going on from yesterday, and we were talking about negotiation, and I said I was going to put something on the board. Negotiation is a process in which people learn to accept an available compromise as a satisfactory substitute for which they thought they really wanted. This is what the rapport building and the conversation and the nibbling technique is all about. It's to gradually bring them into the landing net of understanding. Remember I said we need to give them what they want, or what they need, not necessarily what they want. Because most people want the most they can for their property. Actually, what you've got to do is look at what they need. And then you've got to negotiate the gap in between what they want and what they need. Does that make sense? And that's the skill in the negotiation, is bringing them in to give them what they need and not what they want. But what type of person is a good negotiator, because it is something that can be learned. It's not just something that you're born with. So let's look at, I like this. The father opens the door to the playroom and sees his highly optimistic son sitting in the middle of a pile of poo. I'm sure they've changed that slide. Sure there was different words up there. He's throwing pieces all around the room and he's singing. The father says, "What are you doing?" The boy replies, "Well, with all this manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." Okay? So that statement captures the mindset of an experienced negotiator. What you're doing is you're fishing. Not necessarily in a pile of manure, but I do wonder sometimes at some of the houses that we buy. Okay? You have to understand that a good negotiator learns how you go out and try and negotiate 10, 15 deals and maybe not do one. And then all of a sudden you'll do one. You know, you'll get 15 calls to every one deal you do. And you're not going to do every deal, are you? You probably, how many deals do you look at? And what percentage of them would you say you end up doing?
About 5%, maybe a little bit less.
5%
A
is?
stack of sheets.
It's a stack of sheets, yeah, I'll go on to that in a minute.
Yeah.
5%, if we're very lucky. So
It's 20-20, isn't it?
It's a
yeah,
numbers
something.
game.
Yeah.
So it's no good just going out and doing do 5 negotiations and then going, "Oh, this isn't working." It's a learning curve.
It's no different to any other business.
It's no
You
different.
don't sell to every customer that comes through the door.
No.
The worst thing you can do when you're looking is actually find a deal and stop looking. Even when you find something, you have to keep on having
Yeah, it's called
new
the funnel.
stuff, yeah, coming in, because if that one falls out of bed and you've wasted 3 or 4 weeks, well, that's 3 or 4 weeks you'll
Not
never ever
doing
get
one,
back.
yeah.
So
So we're permanently hunting deals down, permanently hunting deals. That's why every Friday when we have our partnership program day, everyone comes and we go through what deals they've gone and found that week. And we go, yes, we'll roll with that one. No, we won't. Okay, let's structure this. Let's do that. Now go back and say this to them. And I'll give you the words to use. You know, sometimes the words have got subliminal messages in. Sometimes you can accidentally use the wrong words, which gives them subliminal messages. Like with Ian, with that deal, the £250,000, there's no way we ever wanted to call it anything that he would consider that he may want to earn interest on. Yeah, you have to make sure you don't use words that subliminally trigger that thought process in their head. Or if they query it, you go, no, it doesn't work like that, it goes like this. From authority, you know, acting as if, just, well, no, this is the way we always do it. However, if somebody says to you, this is the way we always do it, we go, yeah, but we don't have to do it that way, do we? Okay. I will always give you the words to use. Okay, so you said you've got a pile of stuff like this.
yeah, all the sheets I've ever looked,
Yeah.
all the places I've ever looked at, yeah.
When you start going out with estate agents, because this is something I share with everyone right at the beginning, and you've been with us for quite some time, which is why your pile's up here. Every time you go and look at a property, make some notes on the sheet that they give you, the estate agents. You know the property details they give you? They'll always give it to you. Make some notes on it. Get a map on the wall. So if that's a picture of the map on the wall, and every time you go and view a property, stick a dot on the map. Some of you might want to do this internet-based. Stick a dot. Stick a dot on the piece of paper that you've got from the estate agents and number it number 1. And when you see the second house, number it number 2. When you see the third house, number it number 3. Now what's going to happen is you'll get loads of dots on your map. Now, then what happens is the estate agents say they've got something there for you to go and have a look at. So what do? You look at these number dots and you refer back to the notes you've made on the sheets. Because if a property is worth, let's say, 110 when it's nice, 100 when it's average, and 90 when it's horrible, and we actually want to buy this at 70, is our target price. This property could be on with the estate agents for 110, couldn't it? Because they've seen other properties like that selling, so you know, why shouldn't our property sell for 110? And the estate agents are never going to say to them, no, none of yours is scruffy. We think it should be 100. Sometimes, if it's quite scruffy, they may be really realistic and price it on the market at 90. The skill in what we do is to be able to instantly recognise whether it's overpriced or sensibly priced. Because when you go to do the viewing, if it's sensibly priced, they're far more likely to accept that than if it's on there at that money, aren't they? And there are houses that are on the market at, you know, worth about that, they're on the market for that. And there are less of them, but there are houses that are worth that are on the market like that because they're scruffy. One of the skills is to identify that and to go and view the ones that you're more likely to get a deal with. Obviously, we still go and do these. The estate agent, once you get to a relationship with an agent, he may ring you on a Friday morning and say, oh, can we create a viewing for 4 o'clock this afternoon, please? And you go, what address? You go, no, can we just do a viewing at 4? Because what's he doing? He's telling his boss that he's going to do a viewing and he's going to go home from there. Okay? So when you got to that kind of relationship with the estate agent, you know you're doing the right thing. Sometimes their viewing figures are down and their managers are on their back. So look, you'd say, yeah, I'll come and view 4 or 5 properties with you. And you just get to spend some time with them. They know that you're never going to buy the properties. But you're doing them a favour going and doing it. I'm sure you've had that with your agents.
Yeah, remember the text I had? I'll try and find it. The agent wanted to use me as an alibi because he was buggering off, I think it was 4:30. So I just got a text that just said, if anyone contacts you from the office, just say you're in this place with me doing a viewing. You just say, yeah, no problem at all.
Okay. When you're in that type of relationship with an agent, you know you're going to get the first shouts. Okay. There's a lot more behind the scenes that only when you understand how things work, and you understand how to get underneath things and get the best out of every deal.
Okay, before you go and do a viewing, I mean, if you went to an estate agent in the morning, like as I have, and then they say, oh, you can view it this afternoon at 2, would there be any chance that you would ever do a viewing without having done some due diligence before you walked in?
Sometimes you do. For me, round here, I know my prices inside out and backwards.
Yeah.
You know, I know what houses sell for. You tell me the name of a road and I'll tell you what estate it's on.
Yes.
And what the property's worth.
Yeah.
And you've got some houses in Milton Keynes, haven't you? I know the older estates, not so much the brand new estates.
But ideally, sorry.
So whereabouts in Milton Keynes is one? You could just give me the name of the road.
Crown Hill?
No, that's the estate.
The name of the road.
Yeah, so don't give me the Crown Hill one, otherwise I can just say it's Crown Hill. But I do know that Crown Hill was made up of all
Haynold
actors.
Avenue, Gifford Park.
You've just told me Gifford Park.
Okay.
So just the name of the road.
Walmead Garden. Walmead Gardens.
Walmead, is that Springfield one?
No.
No, okay. No, I don't know that one.
Loughton.
That's in Loughton, okay.
Um,
That's one of the deer areas.
I forgot the addresses. Valence Close. Valence Close.
Again, that's probably one of those. Is that Stony Stratford Way? Is that no? Okay, so I don't know that one either. So that's a miserable thing. Got them wrong. 2 out of 2. If you'd have said Haynold Avenue, I do know that's Gifford Park. So Amber, your question.
Yeah. Sorry, if something's a close or a garden, it's probably so small that you don't know. Yeah. I was saying that when you go, what would be the ideal minimum that you would have done before you go in? Would you have done like?
Look, ideally, you know it all. you know your due diligence.
Right.
We did the due diligence thing yesterday.
We did that, yeah.
You've phoned up other agents. You've done the thing with them. You've done home track. For the bare minimum, you've done home track.
Yeah.
Because home track takes 2 or 3 minutes once you know
Right.
what you're doing. So,
Right.
you know, there's no excuse not to have done home track and look at all the comparables that throws up.
Right.
Look at the square footage.
Right.
And look at the square footage of the other comparables.
Right.
Because that's important, because sometimes from outside the house you can't see.
Yes.
You know, when a builder builds a development, they might have 3 different types of 3 beds, and they're at 3 different prices. Obviously, that's really square footage orientated.
Do agents always have that information about square footage?
Very seldom.
So do you
But
get,
if you're actually dealing in flats in London, they do value them by their square footage as opposed to by the flat.
so you could get that from land registry maybe? Oh, home track.
Yeah, it's on home track. Most properties have got the square footage. You use home track,
I do. I've got your subscription. But, okay.
but it should be on there for most properties.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So, creating this record map is important because it allows you to go and identify whether that's on the market for the right price or the wrong price. And it doesn't take 2 minutes to do it if you just like label them all up. This is one of my favourite bits. Advanced negotiation strategies. I'm trying to get into the head of the person. Now, as I said, learning anything starts off with an unconscious incompetence. Okay? Means that you don't know that you don't know. Which is fair enough. Then you become consciously aware that you don't know something. That's the second stage. The third stage is where you actually do know about it and you have to think about it to do it. So it's a conscious competence. And then when you become an expert, like driving home, you can do it without thinking because you've done 10,000 hours of driving. So it becomes an unconscious competence. Now, when you're communicating with each other, who's ever spent 5 minutes with somebody? You've met them for the first time, you spent 5 minutes with them, and after that 5 minutes you think, yeah, I like them. Have you ever felt that? Has anyone ever spent 5 minutes with somebody and walked away and gone, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah? Now, that's probably because they're not the best communicator. You know, people with autism is where they can't communicate properly because they say, but they don't look at you, do they? So, you actually are all at quite a high level of unconsciously competent at communication. So I need to actually take you back a little bit to have a conscious awareness of what's going on when people are interacting from a body language perspective, tonality perspective. And the best way of doing it is to demonstrate something to you. And this is quite fun. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You've done this before anyway, haven't you? Cool. What I'd like you to do is to partner up with someone, preferably who you've not spoken to or not spoken much to. I need you to get your chairs and I need you to kind of face each other. So can we just grab these cups from under the chairs so we don't knock anything over and collect them in. Now, this is where we're going to start using this. So when you see this, if you could all just put your hands up and sit down, that would be brilliant, okay? Right, so you can lift your chairs up, whoever you're pairing with, and I want you to actually have the chairs facing towards each other. Yeah, that's dead, thank you. Yeah, we have.
Oh, okay.
You can sit with Richard if you want. And,
No.
no. Okay. So that works great, doesn't it? Right, so if you're actually more conservative orientated than Labour, it's not that important, but it gives us something to talk about. Okay? Could you please stand up if you're more conservative orientated? Because in an ideal world, we have one of each. Okay, so where we've got twos, can you swap with somebody? If one of you come and swap here, stay standing up if there's two of you. Yeah. No, I need you to do it. So, okay. Can I? Yeah, if you could swap over here. Oh, you're right. Okay. So I need then, please, one person from each group standing up who's going to be the person who believes in Conservative and make an argument for the Conservatives. So I need one person in each group standing up. I need one person standing up regardless. One of you is going to have to pretend. Okay? Right, so that means the other person supports Labour for the purposes of this conversation. Okay? So if you all sit back down again. So who's in power at the moment?
Conservative.
So the Labour person. That's what I actually want you to do. And I know you'll be good at this. I actually want the Labour person not just to say you voted Labour, you've put us in a right mess. Sorry, you voted Conservative, you've put us in a right mess. I want you to go, you voted bloody Conservative. I take you and hold you responsible for the mess that we're in now. And actually have a right go at them. Right? But I want you to actually stay in rapport with each other. I want you to actually, and most of you are fairly in rapport with the person you're sitting opposite. Okay? So you're mirroring and matching them. Okay? You're actually mirroring and matching the person. So if one of you crosses the legs, the other one crosses the legs. If one of you slightly does that, if some of you scratches the nose, I don't mean go do that. But, you know, people do this quite naturally. You actually do this quite naturally. And then I want you to turn around and I want the other person to have a go back quite aggressively. Okay? Actually, like, have a right go, just for the purposes of this, okay? So let's just have about a minute each having a go at each other. Let's go. What? I just want to talk. I want to talk in here. So what we find is that actually they'll all be smiling at each other. They'll actually be laughing and smiling, even though they're actually having a right go. Have a look at everyone smiling while they're doing this. Look around the room. Look. Have a look around the room and everyone's smiling while they're doing it. Have a look around the room. You're dealing with an actor, so he's probably taking it to a whole different level. But looking around the room, everyone's actually smiling. Look. Right. If you have a look around the room, everyone's actually smiling. Everyone's laughing and smiling at each other. Have a look. Have a look around the room, everyone's smiling. Everyone's shouting at each other, everyone's smiling. So at the moment, if you look around the room, everyone's smiling.
We're not.
People around the room, everyone's laughing.
Shouting.
So if you have a look around the room, while everyone's doing this, they're actually smiling.
Is it therapist?
Okay. It's quite interesting looking at all the smiling going on. Right, now I actually want you to repeat the thing, but actually talk quite nicely. Yeah? Actually talk quite nicely and say, do you know what? The Conservatives have messed up a bit, but hey, it's not so bad. But the Conservative, I want them to be going, yawning and looking up and looking at the watch and going out of rapport, turning your body away. So if they do something, don't copy them, actually turn away. All right? And do that for about a minute and then swap over. Okay, let's go. So just get everyone to make sure they're looking up and yawning and stuff. Okay?
Looking up and
Yawning and like just nodding. So now you'll be looking at people, and the other people actually who are sitting there trying to communicate with someone, and the person's just looking away and not communicating, not making eye contact. They get very frustrated and they don't know quite what's going on. Look up there and yawn. Yeah, it's hard not to make eye contact, but don't make eye contact. You touring rapport at the moment, I need to go out of rapport. So if you're talking, look up there and yawn and look at your watch. Carry on talking. No, you're looking at him. Go, start looking up there and looking at your watch and yawning. Oh, okay. All right, well then, you were speaking. He's the one talking. Yeah. Ian, you're actually looking at him. Look up there and don't just ignore him. Yeah.
Now say that and I'll
So look up there while she's talking to you. Just look up there. Let her carry on talking to you. No, you're not. Yeah. That's it, yawn and look at your watch. Just look up there while it's talking to you. Look. Okay.
I'm used to it.
Yeah,
Isn't he listening to you? Can we put our seats back, please? What was happening?
Kind of the variation between being in rapport and being out of rapport, and the tricks of pulling somebody into rapport and out of rapport. It's quite interesting, because when we were doing it, she had a...
She was getting very frustrated. She was almost like grabbing your arm and going, look at me while you're talking to me.
Yeah, and it, kind of the very second it turned around, and it flicked a switch, because she was winning before that, because I was trying to get through to her, and then she was saying, no, you kind of went into politics of Poland, and where was the other place?
East Germany.
East Germany. And I was trying to get through that, but then when I changed and started to stop listening to her, she came straight in. Kind of opened up completely. It was very interesting.
It's very hard to talk to somebody who's not looking at you, isn't it? I know when I tried this exercise, the person I was talking to, I just wanted to punch him. And that's kind of when you meet somebody who you don't, that 2-minute, 3-minute conversation that you actually think, it's because they're not communicating properly with you. And the people that you actually like tend to be the ones that listen to what you had to say and go in rapport with you. So everyone kind of does that at an unconscious level because you've learnt it over the years, but not everybody actually understands the science of what's going on. You know, the conscious competence is kind of, you've gone past that and forgotten that bit because nobody actually teaches it. But what is going on? What is it that's going on? Well, communication, which negotiation is all about, okay, is how much of it is the words you use. How much of it is the actual tonality, and how much of it is actually body language. And these are, I can't remember the exact figures.
1027, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something like 70% of the communication between two people is all about the body language. It's got nothing to do with the words said. There's something like 24%, or 40, it's about 24, so that might be about 60%. Something like 24% is the tonality of the voice. And there's only about 6% is it the words that you use. So how important is it to get your body language right? And if you're sitting there trying to talk to someone and they're like
55, 38, 7.
55, 38, 7.
What's that on the left? When I was doing my degree in psychology, those were the numbers that we
One
used
on
to-
the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the principle of what we're talking about is there, yeah? The principle is very much the communication that you're using. So when we sit down to go in and have a conversation with somebody, that cup of tea is very important. Because, you know, if you're speaking with two people, you've got to have a look at the two of them and see which one of the two of them is the rapport leader. Because you actually need to go into rapport with the rapport leader. So you need to know which one it is. So you need to watch them and see which one crosses their legs and which one of them follows. See which one of them shifts that way and the other one follows. You know, there'll be every now and again one of you will cross your legs and then 4 or 5 other people will then copy. It happens. You know, it's quite interesting if you actually become aware of what's going on. So, as I said yesterday, if you're negotiating with somebody who talks very slowly, you need to slow down. Because if you talk very quickly to somebody who speaks slowly, they're not going to be hearing all the words. Just the same if somebody's talking really quickly and you talk very slowly, you'll be frustrating them. And you need to go somewhere about 3/4 towards them, what they do, rather than what you do. And tonality has a huge impact on it. And mirroring and matching tonality, volume, speed is also very important. Now, Tony actually does an amazing demonstration of how tonality can draw you in to the conversation. But it's amazing. You listen to his tonality when he does this. It's very much like he's brilliant for bedtime stories. Okay. Now, I only know that Tony is very good at bedtime stories because I hear him doing bedtime stories to my son. Okay, just in case you were wondering. Tony.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'd like you all to come with me on a very exciting, magical adventure. I'd like you to come with me to the land of in pluribus unum. Now let me tell you a little bit about this land. It is a very magical land. It's the land where all good people, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen too, enjoy and do all of their favourite things. But there is only one way into the land of in pluribus unum, and that is through the veil of sleep. So sleep now, close your eyes, and let us tiptoe through the field of dreams, where we can enjoy all of our favourite things. Candy floss clouds, lemonade streams, and cherry apple, toffee apple trees.
Okay, thank you, Tony. It draws you in, doesn't it? So how important do you think it is that your tonality is correct when you're talking to somebody? If you can kind of develop a reassuring voice, but authoritative enough that they're listening to you and taking notice of you, but also very empathetic to their situation, because there will be people in situations. Okay? So that empathy they'll feel, and they'll want to do deals with you because of the way you're talking to them. Okay? Getting the tonality, the speed, the volume, matching their volume, their speed. If they've got higher pitch voice, don't go too far on that one if you're not naturally like that, otherwise I think you're taking a mickey. Okay? Who's ever spoke to somebody maybe from a different part, like maybe like with a bit of an Irish accent, or with an accent, and you found yourself talking similarly? Yeah? You can't help it, can you? Kind of, if you're in Yorkshire or Liverpool and that. And there was a lady the other day here, and I was sort of demonstrating, and I was deliberately, she was from Lancashire, from Leeds, I was deliberately like putting on a Yorkshire accent while I was talking to her, and it's much easier when you're talking to somebody. And a couple of people afterwards turned around and said, "You shouldn't take the mick out of people like that." And I actually spoke to her afterwards and said, "I hope I didn't offend you in what I was doing." She said, "In what way?" I said, "Well, in like copying your..." She said, "Did you?" She didn't even notice. She didn't notice at all. And I was not saying to actually copy somebody's accent, but naturally you do tend to get drawn into, some of the phrasing of words. Okay, and also from an intellect perspective, you've got to be careful about the words that you use when you're dealing with people, especially if they're a lower level of intelligence. Okay. Because if you start using too many long words and complex, you'll lose them. Their eyes will glaze over. And you need to understand and get the feedback from their body language if they are losing touch with your conversation, if they're getting bored. Okay? Any other questions?
Kind of a peripheral question. If you're going to have a conversation with somebody face to face and then they start to drift round to one side of you, what would that actually mean?
You don't have to actually be totally facing each other. You can kind of be like that as well and be in rapport.
It's kind of not. It's a variation or an understanding of the rapport that's going on.
Okay, so here's the process. What we're actually doing is going into rapport with them, and then we're going to start testing to see if they are in rapport. Because people that are in rapport will be liking you. If they don't like you, they won't be in rapport with you subconsciously. So what we're doing is we're using it as an indicator as what we're doing is working. So we'll test, and once I'm in rapport with them and been in rapport for a few minutes, I'll actually do something and see if they copy me. Actually watch their breathing. When you're in total rapport with somebody, they'll be in breathing rapport. They'll actually be breathing in time with you. So if you shift your breathing pattern and watch them shift their breathing pattern, you know you're in rapport with them. Okay, and so all the time we're looking for that. Okay, all the time we're using the words. We're also finding out whether they're audio-visual kinesthetic. Because when you use the same what they actually call, if you remember from your psychology, AVK, is there a name for it? Audio-visual kinesthetic. Is there actually an overlying name for the three things? No. Okay. Yeah, I think it is modalities. So, you know, if you're visual, does anyone know if they're visual or not here? Because most people are visual. Think about a car, why you bought it. You know, if it's because of how it looks, and things are always about how they look, not necessarily about if they're cosy, it's because you're kinesthetic. You know, if you're visual, I'm 80% visual. So if somebody's talking to me, it's like, can you see what I mean? Okay. If somebody's audio, it's can you hear what I'm saying? And if somebody's kinesthetic, it's like, and how would that make you feel? And if they're kinesthetic and you say, how will that make you feel? They'll warm to that far more than if they're kinesthetic and you actually say, so can you see what I mean? That won't mean anything to them, it won't sit. You know, when somebody's talking in the same modality as you, you'll be feeling much warmer and glowier, especially if they say your name every now and again. So if they're having a conversation and they go, okay, so Ian, I appreciate you being here with us for the 4 days. Look, did you see that? Did you see he just went, oh. Did you all see that just that tiny move of his head when he went, and this tiny smile appeared? And you can see he's got this, oh. That isn't exactly what it was, but it was, it's amazing the effect it can have. So for you, audio-visual kinesthetic, do you know?
No idea.
Okay. So tell me about the shoes that you're wearing and what decision you made when you bought them.
Comfortable. To walk in.
Okay.
To run for a clean.
Okay. So that's a kinesthetic description. Okay, and your jumper?
The strings.
Yeah. Okay, what do you like about it?
I like that it fits, doesn't fall off me,
Okay.
keeps me warm.
It keeps you warm again, that's the kinesthetic description. And what about the car that you've got? What decision did you...
I didn't decide to buy it.
Okay. What do you think about the car? What do you like about the car?
It's spacious.
Okay.
The seats are nice and big and comfy.
Okay, so it's all very kinesthetic description. Okay. So, now, watch the change. And people's skin colour changes when you say different things. And I don't mean like blushing or anything like that, but and you get little reactions in eyes and face. But so, when you did your first deal and you realised that you made over £40,000 profit, how did that make you feel?
Great. Yeah. Superb. It made it real.
So, and you didn't do hardly anything then? Ian, when we actually said that to him, he was very visual, and we'll see if we can get a similar reaction again now. So, Ian, I'd really appreciate you coming here and sharing your experience over the last 4 days.
It's a pleasure. Great to be
You
here.
didn't do it that time. There will be, when you say things to people, just a tiny little reaction. It's an unconscious thing that they do.
I thought he'd done it in his tone of voice, like pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that saying that something nice to Ian makes him go, oh. you can actually really see that in him. And you can see the reaction, and everybody's slightly different, the way they react to different things. It's very interesting to watch, and that's the difference between good actors and not so good actors, is they can put that across and make it look real, whereas, you know, subconsciously most people aren't aware of it. But actors have to be aware of all this stuff because they have to actually recreate it in their acting.
It's a learned habit in my experience, and like any habit, when you first start, it's not perhaps as natural as it could be, but if you practice this, I promise you it becomes absolutely natural if you're not already doing it. Personally, I'm a trained hypnotherapist, so I naturally got mechanical training and learnt that you can actually specifically take anybody into what we call state lock within 3 to 5 minutes, and then you know that any negotiation after that is going to proceed in a positive manner. It's very powerful. I recommend you all get rapport training if you don't feel strong in that area, because it will make your property deals and your experience of life go so much better.
It's amazing if you actually watch someone who's a trained negotiator. You can actually watch them doing it, and you know what they're doing. You're actually got a conscious level, not just an unconscious understanding, watching them do it. When you meet Stuart, he's got a very, very calm, soothing voice. Who knows Stuart? He's very smooth, calming, very empathetic voice, isn't it?
So Stuart, yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to sit down and have a coffee with him. I was in Norwich with him last week, and we were looking at a couple of deals. For those of you that haven't sort of registered, Stuart does sourcing.
He's on the partnership program, so he's the one who's got the most deals going through. Yeah, his actually close rate is 30% of deals he goes to see.
So, actually, I asked him about that when we were having coffee after seeing a couple of deals. He has, including the deals that he's sourcing, so the deals he's doing himself and the deals he's sourcing, he's got 18 deals going through at the moment. So that's pretty impressive, right? But he does have a lovely, deep voice. And I find when I talk to him, I get a little deeper as well, because I tend to naturally do the mimic, the rapport thing. And I met his brother. Have you met Steve?
No, I haven't.
Who has an equally deep voice. So
he's an architect, isn't he?
He is an architect, yes. So it's obviously a genetic thing. But it does just make it a pleasure to spend time with him. We sat and had a coffee, in a hotel, and we were chatting away. And I looked at my watch. We'd been sat there for an hour, and we talked about all sorts of things: politics, family, divorce, children, all the good ones.
He does. He will have them conversations with people in their house, and the deals that we do, he has nicknames for them. So he'll call the deals the thimble collector, the Elvis fan. And his boss, when he was a car sales negotiator, would always say to all the staff, when they go in to get how much they've given part exchange for the car, would always say, so tell me 3 things about the person. And if they couldn't say 3 things about the person, he'd send them back out there. He wouldn't give them the numbers. Because people buy from people. People will sell to you cheaper if they like you. People will not sell to you if you're not getting on. I can't emphasise how important, and the better you are, the higher your close rate will go up. It's time for coffee. Okay. Who'd like to make £1 million a deal without too much of an outlay? Is anyone? There are some hands not up. Okay. Have you ever come across a property in quite a nice area? And the clue here is it works much better in areas where the value of the properties are over £350 a square foot. Okay. You head towards Brighton and we're like talking £550 per square foot for the bigger properties. Obviously, cash flow, like the smaller properties, are like small flats. Price per square foot's dearer than that.
Can I just share?
I'm just going to have a bit of a smug moment, and I hope that you will forgive me.
We'll indulge.
Thank you very much. In 1998, I bought an ugly building overlooking Parsons Green in Fulham. So for those of you that know Parsons Green, or those of you that don't know Parsons Green, it's very nice, little picturesque green in the heart of Fulham. And it was ugly, 1950s build, and really no one was interested in it. And it had, you know, hadn't been touched since 1950. And I bought 3 flats as one freehold building. And over the years, I've sold 2 of them, the first floor and the second floor. But 2 weeks ago, I completed on the sale of the ground floor, which was 625 square feet, and I got £950,000 for it, which is £1,520 a square foot, which is at least
about £500 a square foot in the last 2 years. Then.
Indeed, it has. Yeah, that's absolutely right. In fact, that's a record for Fulham by at least £300 a square foot. So it's a total freak, all to do with what we were talking about yesterday: views and dressing and, you know, potential. And that's the end of my smug moment. So
if you get a row of houses, you know, like the bigger houses, but 1930s, 1940s, something like that, and one of them sells for quite a lot of money, all of a sudden all the other ones down the road thinks it's worth the same. Typical type of price, maybe somewhere around the 800 grand mark. So, Tony, let's imagine you've got a property you've had on the market because your neighbours down the road have sold their property for 800, so yours must be worth 800, but yours is tired, okay, a little bit scruffy, a little bit swirly carpety, sort of older-fashioned kitchen, and it's not selling. So gradually over the last year, you've dropped your price from 800 to 700 to 600. Now, if you go on to Property B, one of the things Property B will tell you is how long stuff's been on the market for. Okay, and we need to kind of identify. In fact, let me just make a note. Something else we've not covered. And it allows you to identify the properties that have been on the market for a long time. So, Tony, I'm going to write you a letter. And this letter basically says, I notice from your from the history on the internet that your property's been on the market for over a year, and I notice you originally had it on market 800, and you've now dropped the price down to 600. I would be interested in coming to speak to you about a way that I could potentially pay you 800 for the property. Okay, so I'll send that letter to him. I think it was a similar type of letter that we sent to Blackdawn, with something along those lines. What are you going to do, Tony, when you receive that letter?
Well, I think there's a con, first of all. Why does somebody want to pay me more money if it's dropped over
Okay, the too good to be true thing. Would you ring?
Sorry, would I?
Would you make a phone call to find out?
Definitely. Yeah.
Still make a phone call, but you'd be cautious.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's imagine you made the phone call and I've come to see you. Okay. Let's imagine that's his property. Because that actually is very similar things happen to this. We can just pass that round.
He's a estate agent?
No, he's a man selling his house.
How do you know his details?
I've noticed the property for a little while because I've identified it because it's on about 3/4 of an acre plot. It's in a row of quite nice houses, but it's quite run down. And I've known, looking on Property B, what I've been doing is searching for properties over 500 grand that have been on the market for more than a year. Okay? I'm going to write to them. Okay?
But how do you know his address and his...
Because I know the house. You can see, right, okay. If you go onto Rightmove and you look at a property there, and Property B you look at in conjunction with Rightmove, you use Property B, If you go to the EPC and you double click on the EPC and open it up, the chances are you can get the address off of it. Okay? If you can't, you can always find the address. It won't take 2 minutes to ring up the estate agents and pretend you want to make a viewing and get the address and cancel the viewing. Okay, there's ways and means. I'm sure you can find a way to find an address of a property. Okay, so I've written this letter, and Tony's rung me up and said, Glenn, I'd be interested in you come and talk to me. I'm just one of that to zoom round so that we can... So let's imagine that is his property and it's been on the market for some time. That's actually on 3 acres, that one.
Can I just ask you, the EPC certificate's normally on the right move, but it will always be in home track, wouldn't it?
No, it's not necessarily going to be on home track at all. And sometimes the estate agents take that off now. They're getting wise to the competition right into them.
But there's other websites you can use.
Yeah, it's a there's ways of finding an address of a property, okay? I just want you to have a quickly look at that. I just want you to imagine the type of thing it might be. Okay? That's it. If you just zoom that down so everyone can see it. Oh, look, here it comes. Oh, there it is.
Oh dear.
Down, boy.
Relax. Hello? Speaking. Yes. That's correct, yes. Okay. Well, that's no problem then. That's fine. If you could have a brochure pack sent out to me, please, that'd be brilliant. Thank you. All right, thank you. Cheers and bye. There's no sort of investment opportunities as such in the area where at the moment, but she's going to send me a brochure pack out, and she said if anything does turn up in the future, she'll
still go and see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got something we missed yesterday when dealing with estate agents, and we'll come back to this one in a minute, is that there are good days and not so good days to go and visit them. And from a psychological point of view, understanding how an estate agency runs, Fridays the agents are on the phone trying to make appointments for Saturday. Their managers will want them flat out on a Saturday doing viewings. Saturday they do the viewings. Mondays they're ringing up the vendors, the sellers with offers, and the people that have done the viewings to see if they want to make an offer. Tuesdays is the day quite often the main person has a day off, or the busiest ones. But Wednesdays and Thursdays are 2 days when they've got more time to talk to you. So that's the better day out of all of them to go in and see them. Okay. So yeah, I missed that bit of information yesterday. Okay, so if you could pass the mic back to Tony, please. So, Tony, you've had the letter through. Thank you for my coffee, by the way. And I'm still going to do a bit of rapport building and get him to try and feel more comfortable with me, so that he that feeling of too good to be true disappears. So I expect that you're wondering how on earth, or why on earth I'd be offering you what you were originally trying to get for this property, which is 800,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It's obviously it's not selling at the price it is on at the moment. What I would like to do is to apply for planning permission to build a much bigger property on this, and knock this down, and build a much bigger property on this plot. But I wouldn't want to buy the property unless I actually knew I could get planning permission to do this. So if you've got, it's going to take me perhaps 3, 4, maybe 5 months to get planning permission on the property. And once I've got planning permission on the property, what I'd like to do is to sell the property by advertising it before we've done the project. Okay? And when I find a buyer, we've got some very, very good marketing materials for selling properties that are on plots like this. As soon as I find a buyer and they're happy to proceed, then I will pay you the £800,000 for the property. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'm still got money. Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. Now what have I done? Because what I'm going to then suggest is that I either take an option or I exchange contracts on an assignable contract. And I'm going to go through the different reasons why you do different things with you. And I'm going to apply for planning permission. And how much does planning permission cost? A couple £100, £300. Okay. So fingers crossed, planning permission comes back, and I start marketing the property on Rightmove. Something along the lines of like that. And that's a rendered drawing, okay? We've got some standard ones of these that we do as soon as we find something on the partnership programme that we can do this with. And now, providing in that area the price per square foot is sufficient, that's the rear view of the property. Okay. And at the moment we're trying to get planning permission to do that on this site here. Okay.
What's that, 10,000 square feet?
Yeah, it's around. Now you can vary the size of the rooms. And that's a view from inside the room. Okay. And then you can put together, I've put together some marketing packages. That's actually similar view to the 2-acre plot. I'd love to get planning permission, but it's been turned down. I'd love to build this house on the nice plot I've got that overlooks farmland, and the other direction actually overlooks Milton Keynes skyline. I think you came out with us the other day when we did our title splitting day. You have to excuse the cars on this one. There's a few car pictures in here. So there's lots of pictures of how you could market it, the internals of it, and basically you just put a description to say, look, we can build and design this house to order. So I've just got like example pictures and stuff.
How much is this house? Proposed house?
I'll go run through the numbers in a sec. No, I don't like the decor, but I love the idea of that butterfly staircase. And that's more about the size. That's the type of stuff I like. Now with these houses, you can put in a 20 grand cinema room, or you can put in a £250,000 cinema room. We can build it to order. We've got the people that do that. We can put in mood lighting. You put plastic, it's plastic but it looks high gloss, ceilings, and you heat shrink them to the ceilings, and you have lots of lighting behind it, which from a control unit you can send ripples of light, different colours going backwards and forwards over the ceilings or round the house, up the stairs, inside the stairs. There's so much you can do. The stuff in London, if you have a look at some of the 5, 6, 7, 8 million pound houses in London, they're selling them because they're high spec in them. You know, imagine walking up to a door and the door sliding open, except on a bathroom door. Okay, so as you move around the house, the doors open, the lights come on and off. You can control the whole house from an iPad. Do things like at my house, I've got a remote control next to the bed. I press the button and the bath runs. And it gets to a certain depth and a certain temperature and it stops. So you don't have to get up to see if the bath's run. I've learnt an experience from it that you need something for the plug as well, because if you forget to put the plug in, it doesn't work. You have to get up and put the plug in. But there's loads, you know, you can control the heating from abroad. You can have cameras in every single room so you can see what the kids are up to while you're away. Okay, you can just, that is amazing what technology will do now. And technology sells. That's actually a friend of mine's property who recently died. Funny enough, all these properties were on my dream board, and all of a sudden, a couple of months later, wife rung me up and said would be interested in buying that property. It's amazing how soon after I'd got them other pictures on my dream board that property suddenly cropped up. Unfortunately, she met a new boyfriend who could afford to pay the mortgage payment. But see these pictures, you can use them as marketing pictures to sell one of these, not necessarily with that, to sell the properties like this, what I call mini mansions. Okay, so let's now look at the numbers. So if I take an option and give you £1 for the option to buy it at 800, you're happy and you don't mind sitting. It's not been going, selling, so you're happy to sort of wait an extra 9-10 months to get 800 grand rather than getting 600.
Yeah, so I understand it correctly then. You're going to come in, offer me 800,000,
yep.
Pay £1 for the option.
Yep.
Then you hold that, then you're going to try and get planning permission, and then on the strength of that, you're going to try and market it.
I'll then market
and sell it.
Yes.
How long will that take?
How long's a piece of string?
Okay.
We're hoping because of our marketing, and this is the type of thing that we're going to put onto Rightmove, that we'll find a buyer very quickly. There's a lot of people looking for these mini mansion super pads, because there's not many of them about. And they will actually pay a premium of about £50 to £100 per square foot for this type of property. So as long as your area is over £350 per square foot, okay, what does that value a 10,000 square foot property at?
3.5 million?
3.5 million, 4.5 million. You know, it might be a 12,000 square foot property. How much is it going to cost to build a 10,000 square foot house? High spec, about 1.5 million. And do the maths in your head. If you can sell it for 4.5 million, and I'm paying you 800 grand, and it's costing me 1.5 million to build. But actually, how much has it cost me? Paid £1 for the option. It cost me a couple hundred quid for planning. Okay, so there's a couple hundred quid in for planning, and then I market it on Rightmove and find a buyer who's willing to exchange contracts. Pay a 20% deposit. Once we've got planning, I can market it. If we sell it just to round things up for 5 million, what's the 20% deposit on 5 million?
1 million.
1 million. How much am I giving him for his property? 800. I can pay you as soon as I've exchanged. Pay you out, and the chances are we can then, they'll actually pay as they go to build the property, because people with that type of money can do that sort of thing. Or we speak to the bank and we come up with an arrangement with the bank. Okay, because they'd actually back it. So follow it through. You've exchanged contracts. How much money have I got to put into this deal?
201 quid.
Yeah, a couple hundred quid. Plus architects, but we've already done that. So we've actually got some render drawings being done at the moment that are quite spectacular. And we're getting a copywriter to write the copy of all the electrical spec that's going in the house. So anyone on the partnership program that goes and finds one of these plots, everything's ready. We control it for £1, put in planning permission. As long as we get planning permission, we market the property, find a buyer, use the buyer and the bank to build the property out. You're off on your way, and we've built a £1.5–2 million build cost, plus 800 for the plot that we can sell for 4.5–5 million and make nearly over £1 million profit. Not costing us a penny, virtually, to do.
When you're saying taking option,
Yep.
physically what is done, and secondly, how does it bound the seller to it?
Okay, let me answer one question at a time. It's a piece of paper, and you can handwrite it if you want, or you can do it through solicitors. I'd prefer to do it through solicitors in this particular case, but everyone's different. Where I pay £1, and I have to write out a cheque and give him a cheque for £1 for the option. Okay, and he gives me a receipt, and you must, and I need you to cash the cheque. Okay, to prove that we've done it. Okay, That is enforceable, and we can put a charge on land registry, which we just register that option agreement on land registry, and it's a legal document. It's a contract.
So you cannot sell it.
He's not allowed. The option allows us the option to buy it, not the obligation to buy it. He's now not got the option to sell because we have got the option to buy it. So he can't sell it now. Okay? It's a very powerful piece of paper.
And his motivation for wanting to lose that right to sell it is that you're going to give him all that money.
You've got to give him a little bit more, share a bit of the love. They might tweak on and actually ask for some overage. If you make over a certain amount of profit on this property, we want a percentage of it. You might come across that challenge. But at the end of the day, there was loads of little jiggly-pokery bits that we built into the contract with Blackdown that unfortunately didn't go through at the last minute. But there was a lot of, he was going to get a percentage of anything over a certain price. He was actually going to put some money back into the project to help build it out. There was lots of things going on with it. Certainly to cover our deposit when we bought it, because he needed the cash to buy somewhere else and move. So everyone's going to be slightly different.
How much on overage would you go up to, like 10%?
If you're going to make £1 million profit, if it's a matter of doing the deal, you'd probably give them $500,000 of the profit. But it's a negotiation. I'm not going to let on how much profit I'm going to make. I'm not going to say that. We've just got some other questions that were first. So, Amber.
Yes, it's a silly question, but I think you've answered it anyway. In that case, you would have paid the legal. Sometimes on an option, you don't pay the legals. You decide.
Every time's different, and every negotiation is a set. If you have a set pattern you try and stick to, you'll have deals that won't happen because they don't like it. Every time we do a new thing, it's a blank piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to talk about some of these when I go through all this stuff today.
It must have taken some serious rapport building to get this guy to agree to lock his property out for, if he's trying to sell it and it's not selling, and then you come along. If you look at it from the other perspective.
We were going to take over his payment. Did it start off about £2,000 a month and go up to £4,000 a month?
Oh,
was it 2,000 as part of it?
I see, yeah.
So it almost becomes a renewable auction with a new fee once a month.
Right. Because kind of trying to put myself in this guy's position, you're actually
Look, the thing is,
giving me £1 to...
Look, let's not worry about that, because everybody's different and we go listen to what they say. And to assume, assumption is the mother of all. Okay? So every single person's going to be different, everybody's going to want different things. We sat and listened 3 hours, 4 hours probably, to him talk about so many other things other than just the deal. And we'd come back to the deal, talk a bit about it, go off on the tangent. He was very Mr. Tangent. And it's a long time. And then, we sowed the seeds.
So was it essentially assessing the need, or his need?
Well, ask Ian, he sat and watched the whole process. And I actually said to him, please don't say a word, because I'll be doing stuff that you won't be noticing. Well, he may have noticed some of the stuff I was doing.
The number of zeros can change, but the feeling inside is always the feeling inside, and that's what the guy had. He wanted to develop trust, he had a need, he was out of term on his mortgage, and he had title problems, and he had remained unsold for over 2 years, and he had a very large sword held over him by the mortgage company who were about to repossess his property. I mean, this is 52 acres of prime real estate with incredible views, 10 minutes from a railway station which commutes straight into London. We knew it was always going to be bought by a wealthy city broker, and it was. It's just that the timing happened that he took a smaller amount of cash now for the property. He would have got a lot more money with us, but he would have been in on a 2-year journey. And we had the solicitor's appointment booked to do heads of terms. So it was going to happen. So the feeling inside, of trust that he had and is the same for a 100 grand deal as it is for a 10 million pound deal.
So when he took us around the house, you know, we were knocking it down. We could have said, look, there's no point in us going and have a look around the house because we're knocking it down. What's the point? But he was going around going, look, there's this room, and like we spent hours building this and doing that, and it was very personal to him. So to actually, I said to Ian before we went in, we're going to be very careful how we tell him we want to knock this down, because it was a labour of love that he'd done over years. But these deals are out there, okay, and it's just a matter of identifying them, writing the letter, and there is a huge amount of profit in them for no outlay. And it's the concept of investing, isn't it? Clever investing is not having to lay out too much money. It's to being able to do, how do you think we're doing 58 projects? I've only put £1 and a bit million cash into the partnership programme money, but I can make it go round so many times, and we borrow a lot of deposit money off of third parties. But it's all about making your cash pot sweat.
I thought I heard you say that there was another way of doing it rather than the £1 option.
Yeah, you can either exchange contracts on a delayed completion. Mm-hmm. In fact, that brings us nicely into looking at the difference between options and delayed completion. Okay, so you have a property. It's a flat. It's in Milton Keynes. This is an actual deal we did. And at the time, like many flats, so we're going to wind back to now, you have a £100,000 mortgage on the property, and it's probably worth 90. So tell me, if I was to buy this property or you were going to sell this property, and maybe you'd end up accepting an offer of around 85, in order to sell the property, how much money are you going to have to pay the bank? Because if it's what we call an upside down mortgage, it owes more than what the property's worth. And if you sell it, and the bank doesn't agree what they call a short sale, you would have to pay the difference between what you got for the property. So that's like 15 grand, plus all the costs, which are probably about 3 grand. So if you sold this property, you've got to find £18,000 in order to sell it. How does that feel? This is the salt in the pain, yeah? How does that feel? Okay. Look, I can probably do something with you if you give me enough time for the property value to grow back again, okay, which it will in time. I will pay you £100,000 for this property, okay? And you know the £90,000 that you're looking to receive that you'd get now, you won't have to find that 10 grand.
Am I in a rush to sell at the moment?
You've changed jobs. You've got a job in Scotland that you need to go to, and you don't like the idea of renting. Okay. So, how would that sound to you? If that's what we did for you.
Better, but I'd rather get slightly more than the 100 that I already owe.
Okay. We didn't end up doing that. We ended up at 100. In fact, the conversation actually went one stage nicer for me, because the lady actually turned around to me and said, so how long have I got to pay the £10,000 back? And I said, how long would you like? Because we want these things to be as long as possible, don't we? And she said, I don't suppose I could have 10 years. And I went, certainly, yeah, you can pay me back £1,000 a year. Over the 10 years, no problem at all. So I paid, I didn't do it like this, but because I'm going to demonstrate two different things. So I'll give you £1 for the option to buy the property for 100 grand at some time in the next 10 years. Okay, so I have the options at any time I can do that. Okay, and in the meanwhile, I'll cover your mortgage payments. Okay, which were about 250 quid. I'll cover the mortgage payments. Okay, so that allowed you to do a let to buy, allowed you to be able to get another mortgage and them not take that into account. Because if you have two principal private mortgages, they add them up when they calculate what they'll lend you, don't they? And she's paying me back over 10 years the grand a year that I wasn't ever expecting, but because she asked me, I didn't want to disappoint her. Okay. Right. So let's imagine we fast forward 9 years. Right, second mortgage, because she says this is a let to own. I'm going to rent this out. This now becomes a buy-to-let property. So it doesn't come into the calculation of when she's trying to buy somewhere else. Okay.
So she's declared that to her...
To the mortgage lender, yeah. We don't always. You're always supposed to, contractually. Okay? Okay. So contractually you should. Okay. So, she moved to Scotland. I've got a property that I can rent out for £550 per month. And I'm also getting 120 quid a month to pay towards £1,000. Okay. 9 years goes, and I decide that the house is now worth, say it's worth 200. And although we've done we've got the option registered on land registry, and we've done the transfer documents and all the paperwork, the solicitors still write to you to say that we're just about to exercise our option, your mortgage is going to be paid off, etc., and we're going to complete on the property. You think, I don't like this, he's bloody making 200 grand. Okay? So you decide you're going to go to court. You're going to go to court, a local court, and claim that it's an unfair contract. Okay, so we sit in front of the judge, and we'll have Judge Justin. Okay, and Justin will look at this, and you say to the judge, Judge, this bloody property investor man over here, when I was very vulnerable, and I was in a situation where I really couldn't do anything about it, made me sign this bloody piece of paper, and he's now selling the house for 200 grand, that's my house, and he's going to get 100 grand of it, and I don't like it, and it's not fair.
And you've got to be on my side.
See, she's like, and you've got to be on my side. Now, we are, obviously the judge is there to make sure the legal system's upheld, but he can declare that contract unfair. And if he did, what would happen?
It's a precedent for every other lease option that's out there.
Yeah, and he can say...
Which is disastrous.
But he can say, the judge can totally decide that that's unfair. And who's ever been in front of a judge? It's nothing to stop somebody going and saying this is an unfair contract. Okay? It's an unfair contract. Who's ever been to court on a repossession to try and get a tenant out? Has anyone ever done that? It's fairly random whether the judge decides that he's going to go along with it or not. The judges do come up with some right weird answers, don't they? And sometimes they're actually incorrect in what they do, and you can challenge it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into details of that. He's totally on his mercy as to whether he decides to do that. And if he says it's an unfair contract, it's an unfair contract and I lose out on that. Who'd like to be in that position in 10 years' time? You could build in an escalator clause. An escalator clause would be, okay, well look, if the property goes up in value, anything over 120 grand, then she gets 10% of it. In which case the judge would look at it and go, do you know what? I think you did know what you were doing. So, you know, I don't see this as an unfair contract.
It wasn't really unfair to begin with because you had explained it to me. No, totally. I didn't sign anything, did I?
Yeah, you signed the option.
Oh, you
signed
the option. So then I don't really have a leg to stand on.
That's the contract.
Only that you're saying that it's unfair. That's your only argument.
Property prices are going to
let's
up generally.
You're actually trying to claim that we're in a vulnerable situation, but you could have things
People
could have
do
turned
this.
around.
Look, in real life, this is real life. This is like people will do that. If there's 100 grand at stake, people lie. Yeah, they conveniently forget that I sat and explained the whole thing nicely. Yeah, people's. I'll get to everyone at the end. Let me just finish all this. So, building in an escalator clause will more than likely protect you against the judge. But let's just look at it doing it a totally different way. Delayed completion. I'll be more than happy. What I want to do is exchange contracts with you for £1, and I'll complete sometime in the next 10 years. Okay, so if I do it that way round, now where does she stand? Exchange contracts. That's it.
So the only thing you give away is the option part in some section.
Instead of doing an option, you exchange contracts. If that's what you've decided, you can decide how long you set between yourselves. So we had some questions.
Yeah, so it's more just an observation, coming back to what you said before, between a handwritten option and solicitors. If you both engage solicitors on that option, then
So
you've had legal
deemed,
representation and you can't claim that in court, surely.
You would have deemed to have had advice, yeah?
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes we do a lot of these deals. Sometimes we may not put them through solicitors. You don't actually need to. You know, solicitors will cost you 700, 800 quid each set of solicitors to do that. And when the property's in negative equity, it's the last thing you think of. You know, I'd be saying to the judge, look, this is the situation then, but we're at a random decision of the judge. If I exchange contracts, we don't even enter into that possibility. So why would we enter into something that might go wrong if by understanding now not to do that? Now, let's suppose the property was 250 grand and I wanted an option on it, but now I decided to exchange contracts on it. Something called substantial performance is deemed to have taken place if I exchange contracts and then get benefit by renting it or get benefit by moving in. Substantial performance, which actually then means I have to pay stamp duty on exchange, not on completion. Now, do I want to pay stamp duty on exchange, or would I rather do an option? Especially if we start talking about 800 grand properties. Okay, we can exchange because we're not going to get benefit, because we're going to get planning and market it. So in that particular case, substantial performance isn't deemed to have taken place, so we don't have to pay stamp duty. Okay? There is so much to consider when you do these things, and it's so important to do it right. The £500 a month plus VAT you pay for your mentoring will make sure that none of this happens. Okay?
Could you just repeat the definition of substantial performance?
It's literally means that you've got the benefit of having the property either because you're renting it or because you're moving in. Okay? And that's a summary of a 4-page document that the barristers gave me. But not all solicitors know that. Not all solicitors actually know about substantial performance.
Sorry, going back to that scenario then. So she's in negative equity.
Yeah.
So you take over the mortgage. Sorry. You take over.
It's a lease option. If I do it like that, I'm leasing it for £250 a month with the option to buy it for 100 grand. Okay? Or I've exchanged contracts and got a management contract to manage it for 10 years. Okay, which means I can rent it out and I can keep the margin over the 250.
You've got control over the mortgage because obviously you're collecting the rent.
I would be sending it direct. Now, if you actually ask the building society, can I pay your mortgage for you? Okay, they wouldn't be happy. And I also have to get power of attorney to allow us to pay it so that we're not in breach of money laundering laws. Okay, so there's quite a lot more to these than meets the eye that you've got to be able to do. Okay.
So that part has to be structured by a solicitor, really, doesn't it? Or at least you've got to run it through a solicitor.
We know how to do it.
Oh, okay, right.
So I understand that with an option, if the 10 years passes and
your option's expired, you had the option within 10 years.
Yeah, but you
goes
can
back.
Yeah, you can walk away. You don't have to buy the property
You have
with
the option,
with an
not
option.
the obligation.
Yeah, but if you exchange with a delayed completion, do you have the same?
Depends whether it's a conditional contract. You can exchange subject to the valuation being more than 120, more than 130. You can make it up.
Right. Right. Okay. So you
You can manipulate the situation to your advantage if you understand how to do it in the rules. Yeah, that's what you're buying into. When you come across this stuff, I'll go, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And you'll go, oh, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of it? That happens a lot, doesn't it?
You mentioned about the contract being unfair. There is a whole chapter of law called the Unfair Contract Terms Act, and it works in both directions, but also enables you to challenge anything that's a standard contract with standard terms and conditions, because you can say that's unfair if you don't have an opportunity to negotiate or agree the terms that you want.
Okay. And I know that I was vulnerable coming into it because their solicitors would be putting them words into their mouth. They'd be saying, if you're telling me at the time you were vulnerable because you were under pressure, because you were in this situation. Look, at the end of the day, this is the real world, this is business, we're here to make money. The idea is to just exchange contracts in that case, and then it eliminates all the risk because we're educated in understanding what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Does substantial performance apply if you exchange contracts, but you do not manage the property yourself and you don't live there, give it to third party?
If you get
company to
financial
manage?
reward for doing it, if you're getting financial reward for it, it's substantial performance. If you're not getting financial reward because you're getting planning permission or you're doing whatever, then you're not. Okay, it's all about whether you're getting a reward or not, okay? God, we've got so much to get through. Who likes the idea of when you've built up a 100 grand pot, or if you've got a 100 grand pot now, this is a long term, this is get rich slowly, of turning that 100 grand into 12, 14 properties that are unmortgaged, starting with 100 grand, okay, end up with 12 or 14 properties that are unmortgaged that cash flow you 10 grand a month. You don't have any mortgages on them, and the properties are worth probably about 1 and a bit, 1.2, 1.3 million pound. Who'd like some of that? Yeah. Would you like to know how to take 100 grand and turn it into 1.2 million over 5 or 6 years? Yeah. It's slow, comparatively to some of the other things we do, but a £10,000 cash flow strategy, title splitting. So what I'm going to do is take you through my journey, because I'm a believer in I shouldn't be teaching stuff unless I'd done it. Okay? Now, what we do, we have these box sets that I think you get when you join the mentoring program. These are normally £295. And in the box set is plans for 4 different properties that you can see the before and after plans of when we've split them either that way into two, or that way into two, or that way into three. Some of them we've actually bought the freehold and split them into three leaseholds on the day we bought them, kind of like your one in London.
Yeah.
But we actually split them into three on the day and got 100% financing for it. Okay, we take, you know what, then if anyone's bought that, we knock the price of that or some of that off our day. We do a day where we take you around 12, 14 of these properties and show you things you've never ever dreamed of. Okay, some of the things you'll look at yourself and go, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? If you're in the property business, you can't afford to miss this day, because what will happen is you'll miss opportunities. Okay? I had somebody who I knew very well who was quite a high level investor. He said to me, Glenn, there's no need for me to come round because there's not going to be anything that you're going to show me that I don't already know. And so I said, okay, come out with us. If I do show you something that's worthwhile to you, you pay me double. Because we charge £1,000 for the day, which is nothing to what you can get back in the long run. Okay? If you're on the mentoring, it's £500 for the day. Third house we went to, he just went, and I said, what's the matter? He said, I've got 6 of these houses, I've left 600 grand on the table. So he paid me my 2 grand, which is fair enough. Cyril, do you know Cyril from Essex Property Network event? He came on the day, went back and did a deal that he'd said no to, made 80 grand. And the person that came with him on the day went back to a deal that he'd said no to, made 120 grand. You've just been on it.
You look at properties differently. I mean, in writing my business plan on Thursday night, I looked at it and went, okay, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm going to do. I looked and found 6 potential properties, and of those 6, 2 could be potentially title split.
And you'd have how much profit in them?
Pessimistically 200k, optimistically 350.
So a good return on your 500 quid?
Very.
Because you don't know what you don't know. So we actually drive you around 12, 13 different properties that we've done different things to. Okay? And this is some of them. So once you understand this, you can run this strategy where you can start off with 100 grand, buy the first one, and let me walk you through what I've done so far. First property, 3-storey property. Okay? I paid 62 grand for it. Got it cheap from the agents, going back 2009 when the market was horrible. Okay, they phoned me up, said, Glenn, got this property down such and such a road. Do you know it? I said, well, yeah, and they told me the number I actually owned next door. And I'd already split it into 2, so I knew we could do them. They said, it's 62 grand, would you like it? I said, yes, please. They phoned me back 10 minutes later. She said to me, Glenn, I've got a bit of a problem. I said, what's up? She said, the other 2 sales staff in the office can both sell this for a little bit more to their number 1 investors. What should I do? I said, all right, look, I'll give you £1 grand each. Okay, for this. So she phoned me back a little bit later and said, yeah, that's fine, no problem. Okay? So, what then happened, and this is about, I now do not buy repossessions because they put them into the local paper, okay, and most of the time we get gazumped, okay, unless you've got a decent enough relationship with the agent. If it's on with 2 agents, they're not in control. If it's on with 1 agent, they'll control it. Now, Connells, just as a matter of interest, has anyone gone and ever offered on a property that's already been sold through Connells? And what did they do? Make up some excuse? And did they? I don't know. I bet if you check back, they may not have done. Connells will not sell a property to you that's a repossession unless you take a mortgage out with them. They won't. It's internal policy that they're not allowed to share, but they won't do it, okay?
They only get 0.5%, isn't it?
They get a very small amount from the finance company for selling it, so they make their money on the mortgage. So if you go in there to buy a repossession, they will not accept your offer. They'll give you some waffle rubbish. Has anyone ever felt like they've been sideswiped when they've put an offers in? That's what's going on. Okay? When you're in control of the agents, because they're getting a grant, they don't want that to happen. I've had agents put the repossession notice in papers in Luton, rather than in the local paper. This particular one, it went in the paper. Of course, the phone's gone mad. Can we view it? No, we can't do any viewings until next Thursday. Thursday's the date goes in the paper. Okay, we can't do any viewings until next Thursday afternoon. Well, some of them said, okay, can we come on a viewing? One of them actually went, actually, I'll pay you 82, and I don't want to see it. Sorry, sir, we can't sell it to you unless you've seen it. Yeah, but I don't need to see it. I want to give you 82 grand for it. I've got cash, I can prove it. Sorry, sir, you need to come and see it next Thursday afternoon. Okay? What happens Thursday morning, a week after it being in the paper, we exchange contracts. Okay, they totally blocked everything off. Unless you've got that relationship with the agents, you won't buy repossessions at the right price. Okay? So on the partnership programme, I say it's at your risk, the cost of the survey, because 9 times that, and the solicitor's fees, because unless you've got a good relationship with the agent, we will get gazumped. And then it's down to you to gamble what your relationship is with the agent. If it goes through, yeah, you'll get that back as part of it, but if it doesn't, in the partnership programme, I don't want to proceed with repossessions. Okay? Yeah, I bought it at 62, it cost me 22 grand. I know it cost there's a few other bits with the fees and all that to the agents, but we split it across there. So 84 grand. Split it across there. That was valued at 85, that was valued at 115. So it was valued at 200 grand. One rent's for 550, one rent's for 700, so the rent is 1250. Okay? So I put 84 grand into this deal. This concept is to take 100 grand and to turn it into an unmortgaged portfolio, okay, that cash flows 10 grand a month. With a property, you could put this in a limited company, you can do all sorts of different things with it. But with that property being worth 200 without having a mortgage on it, do you think I can borrow against it if I want to from the bank? 65% loan to value, they'll give you an overdraft on a limited company. Okay, so I can say to the bank, okay, I'd like an overdraft to 65% of that, which is 130 grand, yeah? So I bought a property that we split in two that way. I paid 90,000 for the property and 30,000 to split it into two. Okay, so it owes 120. These are just valued at 135 each. Okay, 135 each. But let's just work it out that they're worth 120 each. Sell that, keep that, pay the overdraft back. Okay, so I've now got the previous two properties worth 200 that are cash flowing 1250, and I've added an extra 120 grand of equity into the pot, okay, and another 700 cash flow. So I've now got 320 worth of properties that are unmortgaged that I can use for security for a bigger overdraft, okay, and nearly 2 grand a month cash flow. Who'd like some of this? As soon as you found them, we'll show you how to do them. Okay. It's essential you come on that day to see what sorts of properties you can do this with. I bought for 170 grand a property that was on the market for 250. It was a 7-bed bungalow. It's a lot of square foot, very badly laid out. And at the cost of, we'll just call it 60 grand because it's actually 80, but this just makes it round up the numbers easy. At the cost of that, converted the 7-bedroom bungalow into 4 apartments. Now, it's always good to have a plan B. So for this particular property, my plan B, 7-bed bungalow, what would it be? HMO. Yeah, it would cash flow great as an HMO. So if I bought it for 170, it's not the end of the world if I don't get planning, is it? But I put in planning and I got planning approved to convert it in to 4 2-bed apartments, which have just valued at 115 each. In fact, we're actually building this one out from cash flow from the rental income of these 3 at the moment, okay? Because these rent out for 700 each. So we're building that one out. What's that worth? 460. So if I sell them 2, I'll pay that off, don't I? And I'll get left with 2 properties worth 230 and another £1,400 worth of cash flow. I'm actually keeping all 4 of these because the mortgage is only 117 quid a month. It's 117 grand mortgage, which is 200 and something pound a month, with an income of 2,800 quid. So I kind of like that one. Pays to put the petrol in the car. So, what does that build it up to? I've got 230 and 1,400 to add to this. So I've got 320 plus the 230 to add to it. And I've got 1950 rent plus another 1,400 to add to that. And this is where we are with this process at the moment. At the moment, it's £550,000 of equity and 3,350 quid of cash flow in an unmortgaged portfolio. And I've actually purchased in the last few months another 2 of these, which are just going through planning at the moment so we can continue going, and I've bought another one of these which we've got planning application going through. And we could put these in a limited company, we could put these in an offshore limited company and make it all pretty much tax free and convertible very easily into a trust fund that is easily inheritable, without paying too much inheritance tax.
On your mentorship program, is there a certain amount of documentation that you're allowed to help us with in terms of some of the documents that we want to go ahead and copy?
You get it all. Yeah, unless there's it's solicitors' cost involved, in which case we'll show you what to do. You can use our solicitors. It'll probably be a lot cheaper because they've probably done it before. You get the benefit of all our marketing materials. It's all in the Dropbox account. You get this day for half the price. And you just get the webinars, which you can just jump on every Tuesday and go, Glenn, how do I do this? So let's look at micro flats. Who knows lots of doctors and dentists? Lots of doctors. Would you like to know how you can make £1,000 a month on a property profit without buying it, without putting 1 penny in? Like to? Then you can do it 10 times and it becomes the micro flat strategy to 10 grand per month. Do you think you could talk the doctors into buying a property in a deal? Here's the thing. Let's pretend you're the doctor or the dentist, okay? Okay. I'd like to joint venture with you. We can buy a property. It can go in your name if you like. It'll cost you somewhere around about £30,000 to £40,000. It'll cost you somewhere between £30,000 to £40,000 to do the work that we need to do, and I can virtually guarantee you £1,000 a month return. Now on your money, if you put 60 grand in, and this will be somewhere between 60 and 70, but on your money, if you put in 60, you'll get a return, as well as owning the property, of over 20% a month. How does that sound? It's a brilliant return, isn't it, for people that are tied up continually with their own work, but have got 60, 70, 80 grand to invest into projects. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. There are a lot of 3-storey properties that people turn into HMOs, and I'm going to sidetrack slightly. Okay? If that's the garage, and that's the kitchen, and that's the lounge, and that's the bedroom, that's the bedroom, and that's the bedroom, these were about, up to fairly recently, for 125 grand. So the mortgage, commercial mortgage on that's about £500. As an HMO, these rooms will rent out 5 times 300 at £1,500 a month, yeah? 1,500 in, 500 out for the mortgage, 500 running costs, leaves you a profit of £500 a month. Okay? Now, people that can go into these, on a housing benefit basis, anyone under 35 is only entitled to room rent rates, which is like £300 in Milton Keynes. Okay? If you're over 35, you have a choice. You can have a studio rate, which is 500, or you can go into a room. If you were on housing benefit, what would you prefer? You'd rather have your own property, yeah? You don't have to share the kitchen, you don't have to share the bathroom with anybody. So if we turn these into self-contained units, and these rooms are about 12 foot by 14 foot, okay? We basically put a shower in, a toilet, a sink, and then build the wall up as tight as we can into there. Has anyone seen the Elvin kitchens? But you can buy a Howden's base unit and make your own. So it's just one ordinary base unit that you normally put a sink in. You have a sink, you have a 2-hob stove, you have a microwave, and you have a little fridge. Okay, a microwave oven and a fridge. So this then becomes the little kitchen bit, and you have a self-contained unit. Now these self-contained units will rent to people on housing benefit for £500 a month, because what would they rather do? Would they rather have it in a shared house, or would they rather have their own little studio? Now they can't get the studios in Milton Keynes because they're too dear. Okay, they're more than what the housing benefit is, and you know, the landlords are very unlikely to rent to someone on housing benefit when they can rent to good tenants that aren't on housing benefit because supply and demand. But this will only really appeal to people on housing benefit. If you can get 500 a room, and obviously you get the bed in there, you can put a wardrobe in there, you can put a desk in there, and a bedside table. So it's a self-contained unit. If it's really tight, you can put the bathroom in triangular like they do on the boats. Has anyone ever seen them, like a wet room with a shower above the loo? So you can actually multitask in the morning and have a shower at the same time. And you've even got, if you do a quick handstand, a bidet. Let's not even think about that. Okay, so there's quite a few houses that have got 5 or 6 rooms like this. One, the garage you have to convert. Okay, so if we convert one of these properties into 6 rooms, rather than 5 and an HMO with a kitchen, okay, if you convert them into 6 rooms, you're going to get 6 times 500, you're going to get an income of £3,000 per month. Okay, you do need planning for these, and they do need to be done to flat regs, i.e. they need to be soundproofed and built properly. So it's about 40 grand for the work. So, Now, when it comes to overheads, you're still going to have the £500 a month mortgage, yeah? What about the £500 running costs? Because what we do is we put electric meters in each of these rooms and we don't put gas in there. So they all pay for their own electric. There is no gas, okay? And the council tax, because these are self-contained units, we pass on to the tenants, and because they're housing benefit, they get it paid. So do they care about the council tax? No. Do we care about not having to pay the council tax? Yeah, because we make a lot more money. So all of a sudden, we've got a property with potentially £2,500 a month profit. Okay, because we've done it a bit different. So let's go back to my doctor. Okay, so here's what we propose. You'll need to buy one of these properties. Okay, let's call it 120. So you'll need a 25% deposit, which is 30 grand. We'll put the property in your name, but I'll have a deed of trust so that I get a share of any uplift in value. I'll manage this, control it, look after it, do all of everything's needed. But to be fair to you, to make sure I do a good job, the first room that rents out, that gets £500, will pay your mortgage. The second room that rents out will pay any maintenance costs or anything like that, and will pay the letting agents. That's you, if you're managing it. The 10%, which is £300. So that's taking care of that. But to be fair to you, when that third room and that fourth room is rented out, and I know we'll always have at least 4 rooms rented out on this property, you'll get the £1,000 a month that comes from them 2 properties. So you're virtually guaranteed a £1,000 a month return. All you got to do is put the 30 grand in for the deposit and take the mortgage, and put the 30 to 40 grand refurb in to pay for the refurb. So for that 60, 70 grand, you'll get £1,000 a month return. How does that sound?
What happens to the other 2 rooms?
You get the money for them because you're the partner.
Well, then what do you get?
No, okay, let's say you're the doctor, okay? You get them 2, I get them 2. Okay, but I only get them 2 if the 5th and 6th rooms are rented. So I only get them if I'm doing a good job.
Yours isn't guaranteed.
No, mine's not guaranteed, but yours pretty much is. Okay, most of the time we'll always have 5 rooms free. Every now and again it may be down to 4, and quite a bit of the time we should have all 6. Now that means if we've got all 6 free, you or I, whoever's doing this, will be earning £1,000 plus the £300 for managing the property. So it's £1,300 a month income. So you're going to get at least £1,000 a month on average income from this property that you don't own, and it's easy to sell the concept to a doctor, dentist, professional person who's got this cash sitting about, doesn't know what to do with it. You just say to them, I'm more than happy to joint venture with you. I will oversee it. I know how to do these. I'll put through all the paperwork for you. I'll manage it. You'll just get pretty much £1,000 a month return on your money, virtually guaranteed every month. So they're easy to sell. Most areas have got similar properties like this that you can buy. Do one, earn your £1,000 a month. Once you're happy that it's running, do you think the person that's bought that one may want to do another one if they've got the money? Or if they haven't, do you think they'll be telling their friends about them? Yeah, they're not hard to sell. They're not hard to sell at all. It's a very easy way to get 10 grand a month income without any outlay whatsoever. There's so many different ways of making money in property. It starts getting scary, doesn't it? Ian's just had a penny drop.
So if you...
He's got pound note signs going in his eyes.
So if you were to buy a single family house...
Yes.
And you just happen to fit en suites in all the rooms...
Yes.
Because that's what the modern market demands.
Yes.
One of the rooms had a larger fixed kitchen, because of course every house needs a kitchen to be mortgageable.
Yes.
And, well, perhaps the other bedrooms might just have unfixed.
Well, actually, what you do is you have a screen on that comes down. So on any inspections, they're not allowed to open doors.
That's right. Screens or unfixed kitchens, because unfixed kitchens don't contravene planning law. Then you've actually got a single-family dwelling with lots of en-suites, a nice kitchen, and it's fully mortgageable on a standard family let. And then, oops, then all of a
I'd
sudden...
still rather have them on a commercial loan.
Okay.
I may have missed the beginning of this. When could that potentially be a 4-bedroom house or a 5-bedroom house that's out there with, you know, it's not purpose built in any way. It's just
all about the numbers.
It's about the number of rooms and then what you can do with it.
Yep.
Because I did see a 5 nice bedroomed house in Liverpool where you sent me, and it's going.
That was a bit mean, wasn't it? And you got back. Did you still have wheels on your car?
It's not that bad, the whereas I'm looking for, but they are quite bad. But this particular one.
How have you been getting on?
Glenn, it's been amazing. I've been sitting in courses like this for 3.5 years, and just to give an indication of where I was. Susanna Cole was in the training room with me when she started, and look where she is now. And I basically I've been too scared to take action. Just didn't have any money in the bank. Couldn't see how I could do viewings without any money. I just didn't know how it would work. And then Glenn made me, and it was almost exactly this time last month. He made me type a certain amount of things in, which he would have done with you yesterday. You type in something to the estate agents yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and I said, that's not going to work. I mean, he said, look, just ready, fire, aim. Stop aiming and start firing. And so I did that, and 3 o'clock Saturday, I typed it in, and by 4 o'clock I'd had about 4 phone calls from Liverpool on the buying side, and about 6 phone calls in Richmond on the rent-to-rent side. By the Monday, I'd had 30 phone calls, and I had to recruit a student to start getting back to them. So I didn't have the bandwidth to get back to them. And I just my life then took over. All I was doing was returning calls, and about 4 days later I just said to myself, there's no avoiding, I've got to go to Liverpool now. I've got to go there because I've got all these possibilities. And I honestly didn't have that much money, but I had enough money to get up there. My cousin lived there, and Glenn said, look, for you it's a no-brainer. You know, I would send you somewhere closer if I have to, but it's a no-brainer. So I went up there, did what he told us to do, used the techniques in the estate agents as he taught me, and did viewings. Didn't put any offers in at that time, but I did walk into one letting agent and asked him a certain questions, which Glenn taught me to ask him, and he's now become my partner. So he's sourcing for me in the area, and he's very good at putting in low offers, although he doesn't have all the negotiation skills that Glenn, he admits that. He's just really good at being patient, putting in low offers. So I don't know if I've made 2 trips in total or 3. I can't remember really. Probably it's 2. I've been just come back yesterday for about 5 days in Liverpool, and that chap put in an offer on a flat. Now, it isn't the strategy that Glenn taught, but 36,000 for a 2-bed, 2 up, 2 down, which was valued at 50 when the surveyor came through. Now, it needs 5,000 doing on it, so it's not that great, but it is great enough. It's renting at 450. Well, people have offered us 450, so subject to the damp being fixed, it's going to be going, and the person who bought it was the cousin that I stayed with, and he paid that chap £1,000 finder's fee, but that's because I put them both in touch with each other, thinking, I'm not adding value, how can I come in on this deal? But then my cousin said, no, to be fair, I'm giving you 1,000 as well. So he's given me 500 already, and then we haven't even got to a stage where we can formalise the exchange contracts or anything. So that 500 quid supported me for the next time and everything, and it's all happening, and that was basically based. I mean, have any of you had any phone calls yet? You have, haven't you? Yeah. So it was a question of Glenn. And now what we're doing is Liverpool's taking off, so we're going to postpone rent to rent until January, simply because we just can't run in 2 different. Although normal persons can. I'm a bit sort of slow on things. So, but I think you could probably do them both at once. But the rent trend's in London, and I need to be up there a lot. But it was really, really good, really good. But the point is that he made me do it. Maybe type it in, and that's was it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You had a question.
I forgot it now. Yes. No, I asked you about if those are little flatlets, they may not pass the planning permission for title splitting, may they? Because they may.
No, they're too small for title split to split into individual flats. But because you need about 350 square foot, about the size of a double garage to do that. Otherwise, it's not mortgageable.
Right.
So I call these micro flats.
Right. But could you potentially have 3 micro flats and a 2+2 or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, you could?
Well, we've got all sorts of combinations of
In
stuff.
which case, this 5-bedder I'm looking at would be a no-brainer. See, nobody's looking at it. Everybody's looking at this 5-bedder as it's $650 a month. The numbers don't work at 120,000.
I take people when we go round. I've got 2 3-bed detached properties, one with a plot on the side that we can develop out, but where I've turned the lounge and it's like a lounge and diner area, I've turned into a studio, like a bedroom and a little shower, bathroom and another little kitchen, and I rent that out for $595 a month, and I rent the 3 rooms upstairs and the garage out for $350 a month each. So we've got loads of different combinations of that type of stuff. I've got a horrible little bungalow that I paid $85 as a prefab bungalow, and it's kind of that shape with the corridor down the middle. Okay, I paid 85 grand for it, and we've split that in 2, and we rent that end for $550 and that end for $450. So it's bringing in £1,000 a month because we've just split it into 2 units. There's huge potential in stuff if you know what to do and look at it different.
And so if I'm on a race to see if I could get an HMO licence for this...
what do you mean race?
Well, in the sense that I've got to make a decision about whether I get it or not.
Take an option on it subject to getting a change of use or getting a licence and change of use.
Right. And in order to make it attractive to them, could offer them a bit more money than...
Exactly that.
So, for example, even at the full money they want, which would be like, oh, God, Christmas come early... If I did it subject to the HMO licence, I'm losing nothing really. And that option's really so simple.
Yeah, of course.
Such a simple contract. Okay, thanks very much. That's brilliant.
You don't commit to something unless you're 100% sure you're going to be able to do what you do.
So, in other words, would I say sort of 2 months, 3 months for her? Because she is.
I'd say 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. Okay.
Worst case scenario, offered to pay a mortgage for 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
But in this, we want to toss the coin. We want it to be heads we win, tails we don't lose.
Yeah.
We don't do anything that involves risk other than calculated risk of the cost of buying, the cost of selling. Are we going to mess up? Shouldn't. Okay, Tony, you had a question.
Yeah, it's more going back to you were saying about kitchens that were like portable.
Yeah, they're called Elvin kitchens.
Yeah,
but they're a lot cheaper just to make them up yourself. And like Ian said, you can almost wheel them in and wheel them out.
Okay, yeah, sorry, you talked about on the inspection or something, when somebody's coming around.
Talk to Ian during over lunch. All right. Okay.
Can you please clarify about the microflats? So they're not passing planning permission because they are small, and they are not HMO because they are separate units. So what are they? How you make it legal?
Don't have to make something that's all right legal.
Yeah. You don't have problem with the council.
We do around here because it's Article 4.
Okay.
But there's not that many areas that are Article 4.
So if there is no Article 4, you can just run them.
Just talk to Amanda Brown, she'll tell you the process.
Okay.
She's the planning expert, she'll talk you through.
When you refurb these, do you make sure they comply with all HMO regulations, even though it's not an HMO?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned at some point on microflats about getting planning done and following the building regulations.
You have to get change of use if you're going to start.
Right. Okay, that was the issue.
Doing this stuff. So Speak to Amanda Brown, she'll talk you through the process.
But you specified that in terms of doing this, you need to make sure they're insulated in terms of sound.
When you do them, you have to do them to full building regs.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we break for lunch then? It's 1:20. Shall we come back at 1:30 sharp?